4 games ago, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were riding high. They were tied for first in the CFL East, but 4 losses in a row have left the defending Grey Cup champions disillusioned, confused, and depressed. Quarterback Sean Salisbury knows the importance of turning it around.
Obviously, we have to score more points than the other team. We have struggled the last 4 weeks. We've done some good things and done some ugly things, and obviously that results in 4 losses. But if we can continue to get better, and our main priority now is to get better the next 3 weeks in order to put ourselves in the best position in the playoffs possible. But it's no easy task today, obviously.
Toronto's win over BC last night has made this an even bigger game for the Blue Bombers. They are now tied for second in the East with the Toronto Argos. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our CFN telecast from balmy Winnipeg Stadium. The Blue Bombers and the Edmonton Eskimos. Bob Irving with Neil Lumsden. Neil, the Eskimos 13-2. The Blue Bombers 7-8. Is there a key if Winnipeg is going to pull an upset here today?
Head coach Mike Riley thinks the key is the Edmonton offense. You've got to stop them. But interestingly enough, don't stop them by defense. Stop them by keeping them off the field. The Winnipeg offense has to establish themselves quickly by the run and the short pass and control the ball.
And the Bombers face the best in the CFL as they try to get it back on track today. Winnipeg and Edmonton are next on CFN. Marco Sincar is set to kick the ball off and get the Edmonton Eskimos and Winnipeg Blue Bombers underway at Winnipeg Stadium. Second and final meeting of the season. The Eskimos were 45-7 winners 2 weeks ago over Winnipeg and Edmonton. Ken Winey with the kickoff return, and he's down at the 27-yard line of the Blue Bombers. And Sean Salisbury leads the Winnipeg offense onto the field for the second game in a row, Neil. He will call his own plays. He's had them called for him all season long. Your thoughts on that?
I think quarterbacks would like, in most cases, to have the plays, call the plays themselves. Sure, it's nice to have some assistance from the sidelines. You see something from upstairs. But generally, you're the guy in the game. You have a feel for what's going on. It's your tempo. You should set it.
Salisbury throws quickly, but it's too high for Terry Cochran. They wanted to throw some quick passes to the backs, but Salisbury off the mark. Look at the weather here in Winnipeg. It's just gorgeous, and maybe the highlight of it is there's very little wind. It's usually windy here at this time of the year, but southwest at 18 degrees Celsius, unseasonably mild, but we'll take it.
Oh, it's outstanding.
Like a mid-August afternoon. Sean Salisbury and the Blue Bombers, 2nd and 10 from their 27. Controlling the football, the #1 key as far as Mike Riley was concerned. Same play to Cochran, and he'll be stopped for little or no gain as Mark Mathis, playing his second game at defensive halfback for the Eskimos, moves up to quickly make the stop.
Mathis taking Enos Jackson's spot. You said it's his second game, and he's fit in nicely with the secondary, and Don Southern is, again, still very happy with what's been going on. But Dan Bass told me before the game we were walking around on the field that he figures, and their coaching staff thinks, they are going to go to a 3-step, or what they call a 70 passing scheme, which is getting the ball off very quickly, even though they're going to see tight coverage. 3rd down and close to 10. Bob Cameron to punt. Pretty good outside rush by Wilson, but Cameron gets it off, and it's a high kick that stays up a long time. And the Bombers have good coverage. And the Eskimos will be at their 43-yard line to begin their first offensive series of the game. Tony Hunter, who has broken Gizmo Williams' club record for punt return yards, on the return that time.
No penalty. The man was pushed in.
And as much as Mike Riley, Neil, talks about how his offense has to control the ball, this offense, led by Tracy Ham, has scored more than 30 points for 11 games in a row. So you need your defense to play a little football, too.
Without question.
Maybe more than a little. Ham, the Bombers come with a rush, and Ham burns them as only he can. And he may go all the way. Ken Petway brings them down at the 13-yard line. The Bombers were intent on blitzing a lot. They blitzed on the first play, and Tracy Ham made them pay.
Well, the way he makes them pay is he finds a seam. You're going to blitz. You're going to see the seam right here. Tracy Ham picks. Tyrone Jones steps up. He's blocked well by Ambrosi. He's out of the play, and that seam opens up. And if you don't pass rush Tracy Ham with some controlled enthusiasm and stay in those areas, he will kill you on running like that.
Ham has now rushed for 847 yards on the season. That was a 55-yarder from the 13. Reggie Taylor gets the toss. East to the 10. He'll get to the 5. And pulled down by Mustafa Ali. after a gain of 8 yards. Well, the CFL rushing record for quarterbacks held by Ken Hobart and set with Hamilton, 928 yards in 1985. And Neil, you'd have to think Mr. Ham's going to get that one rather comfortably.
Well, he will probably get that one if he stays healthy. And he'll probably be able to throw the ball for over 4,000 yards, which will make an incredible season. 9 touchdowns on the ground. He's thrown 25 touchdowns in the air. It's been a remarkable season for him.
Really has, and his blossoming has been a bit of a surprise to Joe Ferragelli, who admits he didn't think his team would be 13-2. Extra blocking in, they give to Blake Marshall on 2nd and 2. Initially, he had no place to go, but he kept his legs moving and did get down near the 3, and looks like he has on Eskimo first down.
Well, it's that second effort of not just hitting a pile and stopping your feet and thinking the play's over, but finding a gap and sliding off. Generally, when the Eskimos get down inside the 5-yard line, it's a pretty good bet that number 22 Marshall's going to get it.
He normally does either here, Chris Johnstone. It's Marshall, right side, and he's to the 1. Didn't get it into the end zone. Blake Marshall and Chris Johnstone have scored 15 touchdowns on runs of 3 yards or shorter, so this is right in their range.
Well, you got a couple of horses that can stand back in there. Full house backfield, lead back takes to the outside, but a good play defensively to get in that gap, get upfield, and to try to get Marshall before he gets ahead of speed up. Paul Randolph was able to get in that gap. Can't do it all the time.
2nd and goal, Eskimos at the Winnipeg 1-yard line, actually out close to the 2. To Marshall, left side, fighting, but he is held up by Tyrone Jones and a host of Bombers, and the Eskimos will face 3rd and goal.
Oh, what a way to bounce back, build up some confidence. Tyrone Jones, Mustafa Ali, they gave up a big play defensively to Tracy Ham to get them down there, and now they're in tough. They're going to stick in there. Good hit by Petway taking the lead blocker. Then they slide down, and they're closing that gap. Marshall keeps his feet going, but he's outnumbered a good 5-1.
Strength against strength. 3rd and goal, Eskimos, Winnipeg 1-yard line. Ham on the option, and he doesn't get in. There's a penalty flag. Petway stopped Ham short, but there is a penalty flag.
Offside, Winnipeg number 52, first down.
Michael Gray is called for offside. The Bombers have talked often in the last month about shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, no one moved early. It was simply the placement of hands, and it looked awfully close. There were 3 or 4 hands down at the same spot. Play ends with another good play by Petway. They're going to have to do it again.
So again from the 1, Tracy Ham carries into the end zone, but there are more penalty flags down. Somebody was offside again.
Again, I think it's a simple situation. They're putting their hands down inside that 1-yard barrier.
Winnipeg number 76, declined, touchdown.
There's some early movement right there in the nose, and the hands were a little bit close. Someone's going to have to, every time they go down now, say, look, give me a yard, make people aware.
That time it was Rommel Andrews who was offside, but the Eskimos decline. They take the touchdown by Tracy Ham, and they have the early lead. The big run by Ham, a 55-yarder, setting it up. Jerry Korek will try the convert. Korek, almost a sure bet to score 200 points this season, adds 1 there, and it's 7-0 Edmonton. We're 4.5 minutes into the game at Winnipeg Stadium. Back at Winnipeg Stadium, the Edmonton Eskimos have struck first. A touchdown by Tracy Ham. They kick off, and the ball heads for the sidelines and will go out of bounds at the Blue Bomber 22-yard line, and the Bombers will ask Edmonton to kick off again. Tracy Ham having a great year, and he just scored a touchdown for Edmonton. Well, with us is the father of the head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The head coach is Mike Riley, and his dad is Bud Riley, who coached for many, many years in the CFL. Bud, you're not here to help Mike out during this 4-game losing streak, are you?
No, I become a spectator 2 years ago, and that's what I want to be now from here on in. I'm just a spectator.
Do you give him any advice in a situation like this?
Oh, no, I don't ever talk to him about football situations. I do tell him about players that I know of and people that I still stay in contact with, but outside of that, I'm a farmer.
The Eskimos kick off again. Ken Winey with a return for Winnipeg, and he's out to the 32-yard line. But as the game changed, and you haven't been out of it that many years, but do you see any changes in it in these last few years?
Not really. I think the game's still about the same as it was when I came into the league, really. Same type of offenses and defenses being employed now that they were then, and I don't see a great deal of change. The players may have improved some over the first few years I was up here, but overall, I think the league is about the same, really.
How good is this Edmonton team? And you saw the great one in the late 70s and early 80s. Where would you rate this Edmonton team?
Well, it's certainly hard to compare this team with those teams. They have some great personnel in. They've got some great personnel now. Some of these Edmonton players were rookies the year I was there. Hill and, of course, Bass's first year there. The nose guard was a rookie, and he'd been an offensive lineman. We switched into defense that year. So they've got some great players, but you name a few of those, Dr. Death and a few of those that played, they were great football players, and so are these guys. So it's hard to compare teams.
It is indeed. Bud, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your holiday here in Winnipeg.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Bud Riley, Mike Riley's dad and a former coach of the Blue Bombers, among other teams in the CFL. While the Winnipeg Blue Bombers get a first down, Sean Salisbury throwing to William McCall on 2nd and 8 for an 11-yard gain out to the 45-yard line. Rick House splits wide left. He's outside of James Murphy on this alignment. And they hand off to Ricky Blake left side. John Mandarich makes the first contact. And Jeff Braswell right there holding Blake to a gain of 1, maybe 2 yards.
Mandarich tough in that middle. The ideal situation for John Mandarich is to draw a crowd. Make at least 2 people block him. And if he can do that, and as active as he is, and continue to do that throughout the game, that frees up somebody else. And that's ideal for their stunting system.
2nd down and 9, Blue Bombers at their 46. Salisbury slides away from the rush and finds Jeff Smith at the Edmonton 53-yard line for a Winnipeg first down.
I guess it's a classic situation when a team's playing well and you talk to a coach and say, Coach, you're going to do anything different? They will generally say, no, we'll do things the way we always have. And that's what Don Southern said to me. We're going to play defense like we always have. We're going to come after him. And you see right there, Brett Williams was lined up a little bit deeper, standing up as a linebacker. You're going to see these wild and crazy formations that Edmonton gives you, and they will come after you.
Bombers send 3 of their receivers to the right side. Salisbury goes back the other way, though, to Ricky Blake. And he's into the Edmonton 47.5-yard line for a gain of 5, maybe 6.
The most important thing along that offensive line is to get into the people like Brett Williams quickly. Get your hands out. Sometimes you need more than one, and that's evident right there. Cochran has to come in and help out Bob Molly.
Bob Molly, an old wrestler, relying on that experience.
On a new wrestler.
On that play. On a
different
new
type of wrestling, mind you. But
2nd and 5, Blue Bombers at the Edmonton 48.5. Salisbury with big heat, and he'll go down. Stu Hill led the charge, and he leads the Eskimos in sacks. He can tack another one on. That will be his 13th of the season.
Hill can certainly get upfield and slash. He's got help of Mark Mathis, and look what happens. Hill comes inside of Black. Now he gets that shoulder down, a missed block up front. Salisbury wants to escape, but they've got a blitzing halfback in Mathis. He has to slow down, and Stuart Hill's there.
Bombers talk a lot about execution, and that being one of their problems. 2 people failed to stop Stu Hill coming through there, which is as much a testament to Hill's talent as anything, I guess.
You can't, with the personnel like Edmonton has, try to cut people all the time. They're too good athletes. They'll jump over you.
Bob Cameron, a good punt. Tony Hunter at the 18-yard line, tripped up by Michael Allen. 7:04 left in the first quarter. Eskimos with a lead, which is the norm for them. Now with the ball at their 20-yard line, 1st and 10. And the handoff to Blake Marshall on the right side, and he gets 5 yards. Greg Battle, the last Bomber, to pin him. There was a penalty flag on the play. Offside Winnipeg again. That's the 3rd or 4th offside against the Blue Bombers.
Well, a defensive captain is going to have to step up and figure out what's going on.
Tracy Ham with Taylor and Marshall. You'll also see Chris Johnstone in that backfield. Michael Souls as well. The receivers. Craig Ellis back. He missed the last 3 games with an injury. Tony Hunter starting out wide with right. In the offensive line with Dermott now at right tackle. Trevor Bowles is injured. Ambrosi, Knopf, Verchevel, and Potier, and they've had a terrific year. You don't have the kind of numbers Edmonton has without an offensive line that's playing well. 1st and 5. Eskimos take the penalty there at their 25-yard line. A handoff to Reggie Taylor, right side, across the 30, out to the 35. He fumbles the ball, but the Eskimos recover. Pierre Vercheval was over there to bounce on the ball at the Edmonton 34-yard line.
Reggie Taylor's style of running, you're going to see him slash a bit of a counter move. Goes to one side, back across. Now he's going to hit straight upfield. When he starts to spin, the ball's a little bit more exposed right there. Alley comes up, one pop, and it popped right into Vercheval's hands.
Eskimos from their 34 on 1st and 10. Ham throws, and he completes it up at the 46-yard line. That's the first pass of the game by Tracy Ham. Tony Hunter with the reception, and a first down up to the 50 of the Eskimos. The Bomber defense, the same as it has been up front all season long, although Mikowas did miss a couple of games earlier. Randolph playing for James West, who the Bombers hope to have back for the playoffs. Greg Battle enjoying an excellent year. And Rod Hill playing with a painful hamstring bruise. Right on the receiving end of this throw from Tracy Ham. Rod Hill has him and pushes him out of bounds at the Blue Bomber 48-yard line. Keith Wright making the reception. I was talking about the Edmonton offensive line and Dermott at right tackle now. Dave Richardson started the season at right tackle, and Dermott was the left guard. Richardson got hurt early, so Dermott went over there, and they put Pierre Vercheval at left guard, and he's done a job.
And even with the ball out of bounds, Edmonton has gone into a hurry-up offense situation.
1st and 10, Ham lots of time throws, and is it caught? Now they're saying it's incomplete, intended for Tony Hunter. Les Brown with the coverage.
I think Joe Ferrigilli has to be very pleased by the way his team has matured. A lot of young players he's had to fit in and put into place earlier on. He's been very successful as a head coach. His record shows that. He's liked by the players. And I think he has to feel very fortunate. And I don't want to put the bug on him or anything, but he hasn't had a real serious rash of injuries. He's missed Craig Ellis and some bumps and bruises, but not devastated like a couple other teams have been this year.
2nd and 10, Eskimos. Ham puts it up deep. And it's over the head of the intended receiver, Craig Ellis. The Bombers got some pressure on Tracy Ham that time, so they will force Edmonton to either punt or try a long field goal.
When Tyrone Jones came back into the fold with Winnipeg, he really was just a linebacker. He dropped more than he rushed. But I think now we're going to see him stunt a little bit more with the likes of Michael Gray to try to confuse the offensive line, because I remember Tyrone Jones very well. They'd line him up on the outside, get him in a 2-point stance, and he'd come 95% of the time, and he was very effective.
Jerry Corrick has been effective this year. He scored 189 points. And he'll punt on 3rd and 10. The football at the Winnipeg 47.5-yard line. What little breeze there is favors Corrick in this opening quarter. High kick. The Bombers will let it go into the end zone and give up a single point. So with 4:21 left in the first quarter, it's now the Eskimos 8 and the Blue Bombers nothing. We're in the first quarter at Winnipeg Stadium. 4.5 minutes left. Beautiful, gorgeous afternoon. 18 degrees Celsius. Eskimos leading 8-0. Blue Bombers from their 35 after a Jerry Corrick single. And Sean Salisbury throws for James Murphy, but he's unable to get far enough back to get the ball. Stanley Blair had the coverage on Murphy. Well, Hamilton is now leading Ottawa 22-14 in the third quarter at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. If the Ticats win, they clinch first place, even though Winnipeg could still tie them at the end of the season. The Bombers have lost the season series to the Ticats, so a win there today would give Hamilton first spot. Salisbury back to throw. He's hit. The ball comes loose, picked up by Ricky Blake, but they have now whistled the play dead, and I believe are going to rule that it's an incomplete pass.
Well, from the backside, it's a scary moment for a quarterback, only he doesn't really know and really appreciate it till he sees it on the film. Larry Ruck, free, whack, right from behind. The presence of mind, he gets the good control of his Salisbury's body and then tries to strip the ball. Ruck comes into the game with 5 sacks, and they really try to distribute the type of pressure and the people who put the pressure on quarterbacks. And that's just a good example. He's had an excellent season.
Who on the Eskimos hasn't? They've had some year. 3rd and 10, Bombers at their 35. Bob Cameron, another good punt. That's been the best part of the Winnipeg offense, if we can include it in that category today. Tony Hunter doing a dance, got away from Battle, and another Bomber, Ken Haley, but is finally down at the Eskimo 32-yard line. Today at halftime, a look at the only Canadian member of the Eskimos' outstanding linebacking core, Larry Ruck.
They had some linebackers here, Dan Kepley, Tom Towns, Dale Potter. Those guys were, in their twilights of their careers. So I knew that the timing was right.
Ruck, a product of the Saskatoon Junior Hilltops. In his 5th year, signed as a free agent. More good scouting by the Eskimos. To have the football, 1st and 10 at their 31-yard line. 3 minutes left, first quarter. Edmonton leading 8-0. Ham swings it out to Blake Marshall. He's wide open and has the sideline. Is up to the Eskimo 50-yard line for a gain of 19 yards.
It seemed like Tracy Ham, once at the line of scrimmage, figured out something in the coverage where they could get the fullback out into the flat. And I think you see 76 Randolph caught inside in his position where he was in that alignment, allowed Marshall to get up easily.
Ham sprints left on first down from the 50, puts it up long, and it's caught by Hunter. And he gets down to the 2-yard line of Winnipeg. Hunter turned around, Les Brown didn't. That was the difference. The receiver always is with the advantage in a situation like that. And a big play for the Eskimos, and Tracy Ham was shaken up on that play.
Oh, you're right. The person that has the ability to adjust when the ball is thrown deep like that is always the receiver, and Hunter plays it perfectly by waiting to the last minute to adjust and really catches the man in coverage, who is Les Brown, off guard. Tracy Ham is down and resulted in this. Really awkward left ankle. Hatziano came through just as he was putting his foot down when he turned his body to throw. There's the adjustment that Hunter makes.
Oh, we've talked about this before, Neil. Sometimes a quarterback, if he has a wide receiver one-on-one with a corner, he'll just put the ball out there and say, go get it.
And the key is for the receiver to keep running and not try to tip his hand. Don't let him know where the ball's going, and don't let him know through turning your head around and recognize it so he can adjust, because all the secondary people will start yelling ball, ball, ball to try to get the man in coverage's attention so he can turn around and at least have a chance.
Rick Warman warming up. The Eskimos also have Steve Taylor on their roster today, a rookie quarterback from Nebraska. Joe Faragelli would like to give Taylor some playing time, but not in this situation. Still in the first quarter of a game that, even though the Eskimos lead 8-0, is still very much up for grabs. Tracy Ham limping off the field, favoring his left knee. Leon Hatziano is the Blue Bomber who seemed to upend him. Joe Faragelli has to just be sick to see that occur. Ham's had such a great year. To see him get hurt. Well, any player gets hurt, you hate to see it, but when you're in Faragelli's shoes, he's one of your meal tickets.
Well, he's been so key. He's been able to take a football game that's been very close as they've had during the first 3 quarters and break it wide open because of his athletic ability to really start to get a defense to chase him. And from that, he opens things up. As you said, we just only hope it's not serious, and that it will loosen up maybe the more he walks on it.
So the Eskimos, after the big 57-yard pass to Hunter, 1st and goal at the Bomber 3. Rick Warman fakes to Johnstone, looks in the end zone, has a man wide open, John Mandarich, and he can't hang on to the ball.
The chance in the end zone to actually stop and catch the football. He's on the bottom of your screen. He hits, makes the block, and then releases. Just goes up the seam. And he's just waiting for it to get there. A little too much tape. Got to trim some of that tape off when you become a receiver. Forget the pads. You don't need it to catch the football.
Well, his big chance gone. Mandarich leaves the field as the Eskimos take a close look at the injury to Tracy Ham. 2nd and goal, Edmonton. Winnipeg 3-yard line. Warman will throw again and has a man all alone. Chris Johnstone, touchdown. Eskimos lead 14-0.
The play the Eskimos use in short yardage and down near the goal line. If they're not trying to get Greg Marshall, stick him in there. They run the fullback. There he goes just to the left of your screen. Goes up to the linebacker, looks him in the eye, and then cuts right flat in front of him. Tries to give him the impression that he's going to stick him in the chest and block him, and then gets the linebacker to settle, and then he just goes in the flat, and he's wide open.
Johnstone's 8th touchdown of the season. Warman's 5th touchdown pass. Warman had only thrown 75 passes all season entering this game. He hasn't played very much at all. Korek will add the convert And with 2 minutes left in the first quarter, it's now Edmonton 15 and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers nothing. Well, the Eskimos, if they need something to motivate them, and I don't really think they do because this is a team with great pride, but here's a look at some of the records the Eskimos are chasing. Wins in a season, they could tie that today, and they still have 2 games left. Points in a season, they're going to break that, and this includes the 15 points today. Total offense, you would think they'd break that. First downs, Tracy Ham going after the Hobart rushing record for quarterbacks, and Tony Hunter, that record for punt returns held by Mike Nelms, set with Ottawa in 1979. So I don't know, Neil, you played on Edmonton teams who were miles ahead of everybody, had first place clinched with a month to go. Is it difficult to keep the intensity level up?
I don't think so, because I believe you go into a game, each and every game, thinking you can't and you won't be beaten. The personal accomplishments and the records just come along because you're a good football team. Those happen, but you can't go into a game looking to accomplish them.
Ken Winey goes high to field this. Kicked by Sinkar and is down at the 33-yard line. Also, teams that win all the time grow to hate losing even more. I mean, it's fine for people to say, well, you're going to have a letdown, but you don't want to lose ever.
Yeah, you just don't get upset when you lose. You get angry. The other thing about the personal records, it can often be a distraction. And I've never seen it happen, but if you get in a situation where everyone's thinking about me, get me the ball, I need this much yardage to break this record, or I've got to do this, I got to do that. Sometimes the idea of a team's concept can be split. I don't think that's the case in Edmonton.
It has never been the Eskimo way. The team concept always underlined there, and how well it's worked over the years. Ricky Blake on a first down carry for the Blue Bombers. It's about 4 yards out to the 37-yard line.
That is plain pass.
It's time, man. It's time. That's all it is. On the double dog. Sweat slide double dog here. Come on, Dave. Go at the back of the flat. I'll have it. What happens is I go back line around.
Well, you have to carry out your assignments in any game, but even more so against the Eskimos, and Mike Riley doesn't feel his defense was on the ball the last time Edmonton had the ball. Salisbury throws. Baby is open and has a first down at the Blue Bomber 52-yard line.
Well, it's all important to execute. I mean, sometimes you can get away with lucky breaks, but not very often against good, solid football teams. See the linebackers drop. Danny Bass. See him move as Salisbury starts to turn his shoulders and direct his attention to where he's going to throw it. That's the key for a linebacker. Read the quarterback.
Salisbury tossed to Ricky Blake left side. He'll try to get around that corner. Danny Bass with a hit. And Blake is stopped for no gain. You know, I don't know how you'd single out a leader on the Edmonton defense, but if you were going to, you might start there.
Oh, I think that's a pretty good place to start. He not only leads by example, but his personality. He's the type of fellow that can sit up in there and make things happen, just be his presence. And Dr. Peter Boucher with the sunglasses there and the sweater on the left. They're wrapping that ankle in ice.
Valerie, I'll be all right. See you when I get home.
Tracy Ham, it doesn't look like we'll see him certainly for the rest of this half. Maybe not again in the game. A flag comes down as the Eskimos look like they jumped offside. I guess that's the one thing about a game like this, Neil, where you've got first place clinched. Championship game, maybe you tape that ankle and send him back in if it's only sprained. Today, you take no chances.
Offside, Edmonton number 44, first down and 2.
No, you're right. In a championship game, they might have waited, looked at it at halftime a lot more closely to see maybe the extent of the injury or if they could find out more. But you're right. You just don't take a chance with an athlete, especially this early in his career.
Second down and 5. Blue Bombers from the Eskimo 53. Salisbury throws. James Murphy has it at the 45-yard line, and that's a Winnipeg first down. 1 second left in the opening quarter. And the Blue Bombers have shown some glimpses of getting a little bit of offense working for them.
Well, they're showing us a little bit of that ball control. You see Murphy sort of angle his way out, then just find a soft spot before Wilson can get over and before Blair could come up. And that's the type of ball control, short little passes. But eventually, they're going to have to throw the ball deep.
3 receivers to the left again. The Bombers flooding one side quite often. Salisbury is keeping the football. He's going to run with it. And he's inside the 35, down to the Edmonton 32, and the fans here love it. That's only the 18th time all year Sean Salisbury has carried the ball, and that play ends the first quarter. Nine minutes, 40 seconds left in the second quarter at Winnipeg Stadium as Ken Winey was helped off the field. He was injured on that punt return by the Blue Bombers, who have the ball at their 47. Ricky Blake, right side carry, and Brett Williams was right there to stop Blake for a loss of a yard.
Well, Williams can give you that good quick move on a pass rush, but he's also very apt at hitting that gap quickly on a running play. Makes good reads. Smart defensive players watch a lot of film and look for tendencies in offenses, and that's how you can get an advantage. Look for the keys.
2-yard loss, Blue Bombers. 2nd down and 12 from their 45-yard line. Salisbury outside to James Murphy. Good catch as he's hit hard by Francis. Brings it in at the Edmonton 53-yard line. Very close to a Winnipeg first down. It looks like they got it.
Well, there was no question of the concentration on this football. He breaks out. Andre Francis is right in his hip pocket. Contact soon as the ball gets there. And you can almost hear a little squeak after Murphy caught the ball in the hit by Francis.
A little squeak.
Yeah, like, oh.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I heard it.
I understand. James Murphy, 6,000-yard seasons in his career, this being the 6th. Salisbury back to pass, and over the middle, Rick House is all alone. House to the 40, and fights down to the 36-yard line.
You know, Rick House played in Winnipeg before he went to Edmonton. He was known as a very reckless type of receiver. He would lay his body out, catch passes that most people wouldn't even try for. Here, he's running a drag pattern across and in front of the linebackers. Bass is in chase. But you see, he just sticks his head down, turns upfield. He turns into a running back after he catches the ball and when he gets in a crowd.
House and Faby have split playing time at slot, and Rick House has had a solid year. Ricky Blake is hammered just as he took the handoff. Stu Hill was there. Danny Bass was there. And there weren't a lot of Winnipeg blockers there.
There was no one. Stu Hill tied him up immediately. But Larry Ruck just drilled him in the chest and snapped his head back.
Blake is -5 in his last 2 carries. Blake ran for 100 yards against Edmonton 2 weeks ago.
One of the only 2 runners to do that this year. The other is Gil Fennerty.
2nd down and 12. Blue Bombers. Salisbury lots of time, and he throws high, intended for James Murphy. And Salisbury had the ball sail on him a little bit. And so the Bombers are stalled once again, and we'll see Trevor Kennard for another long field goal try.
One time we're going to see Bob Cameron, who can throw the ball quite effectively, come up out of holding the ball and throw it. I know we're going to see him throw it on a fake someday.
We won't this time, though, will we?
No, I don't think so.
He puts it down. There's a flag as Kennard hits it from 46 and puts it through. There is a penalty flag on the play. Now, if against Edmonton, the Bombers would decline and take the 3 points, I would imagine, because offside against Edmonton would give them 3rd and 8.
Offside, Edmonton number 14, declined, field goal.
So it's 15-6 Eskimos with 6:51 left in the first half at Winnipeg Stadium. Center Lyle Bauer of the Blue Bombers watches the Trevor Kennard kickoff. After the Kennard field goal, Wright brings it back to the Edmonton 37-yard line. Tracy Ham now has the ice and the wrap off his twisted ankle. He just turned it a little bit, and it is not a serious injury. We're happy to tell you, at least there's no indication that it is.
Almost looks like they're getting ready to try to retape it.
They let the swelling go down with some ice, and you know Ham wants to get back in here and play. Rick Warman has been at the controls since Ham went out in the first quarter, and we'll start this drive from the 37 of Edmonton. And the pass is no good. Les Brown with solid coverage on Tony Hunter.
Well, I don't think there's any question that the Eskimos with Rick Warman at quarterback are a different type of offense to defense than with Tracy Ham. We talked about that. I figured that Winnipeg would come after Warman a little bit more, put the heat on, take a chance that you might normally wouldn't take with Tracy Ham because of his mobility.
Warman threw for 5,460 yards for Calgary in 87 and most of 88 before he was let go and picked up by the Eskimos. He's back to throw, dumps it over the middle. No good, intended, I think, for Tom Richards. But Warman is not able to get things in sync on offense the way Tracy Ham had them.
Well, the key for a drop-back quarterback is protection, and Conop snaps the ball, and the first thing he has to do is get ready for impact. Hatziano into his face, a headbutt. Conop does the right thing by keeping his hands. So important, all good offensive linemen get the hands up quickly, and it's especially important for Conop because he's got to do something else with his hands first.
3rd down and 10 from the 37 of Edmonton. Bert Cummings and Jeff Smith are back to receive the punt. Ken Winey shaken up the last time the Bombers returned to kick. Corrick, high kick, but another short one, and it'll go out of bounds in the area of center field. So Jerry Corrick struggling with his punting today.
Well, he knows, and I'm sure he feels the pressure, and the pressure is coming up the middle, so he might be subconsciously trying to get that ball up a little bit more quickly. Quick release, 2 steps. It almost seems like he's not falling through as much as he normally does.
That was only an 18-yard punt by Jerry Corrick, who had a 40.1-yard average on the season entering this game. 5.5 minutes left in the first half. Edmonton 15, Winnipeg 6. Bombers at center field, 1st and 10. Salisbury to Ricky Blake on a delayed handoff. Blake does a good job of moving his feet to find an opening and get to the Edmonton 50.
To take some pressure off their pass game, they're going to have some success running the football. Pursuit from the backside. Bass is up there. Michel Bourgeau's in there. Everyone goes to the football. Don Matthews works them to get off the blocks and get to the ball and keep coming.
2nd and 5 at the 50. Salisbury to Faby. Good catch on a ball that was rifled in there. That'll be a Blue Bomber first down. You know, we talk about running against Edmonton as Faby makes a good catch. The Eskimos have only given up 72 yards rushing a game this season. That's easily the best in the CFL.
Well, we figured that with the ice off and Tracy Ham walking around stretching that ankle a little bit that they might get him ready to possibly go back in. Sure enough, you're seeing a good, pretty secure tape job just in case. Or maybe if he feels good, he'll just say, Coach, give me the break, I'll go.
Salisbury sacked back at the 51. Had some time. Larry Ruck finally got there. But that's the kind of thing that Salisbury can't do, Neil. He has to get rid of the football.
He sure does, and you can see the pressure. Nothing unusual. Ruck's coming from the left to the outside. But good job downfield. They drop a couple linebackers off. Tight coverage. There's no place to throw the football. You're not going to try to squeeze it in on tight coverage and possibly give up an interception.
We'll feature Larry Ruck at halftime. Another very consistent season. 2nd down and 18. Blue Bombers at the Eskimo 50. Exactly the situation you don't want to be in against the Eskimos. Salisbury, though, does a good job of getting it downfield for a Winnipeg first down. James Murphy with the catch.
Salisbury not a scrambler, but he certainly doesn't look uncomfortable when he's forced out of a pocket and has to throw the ball. You're going to watch Murphy going to run his pattern. Push off, then come back. Now recognize that Salisbury's coming to his side. Just keep your position, stay to the sidelines, and make sure the coverage is behind you. Stuart Hill and Chase. They should do that more with him. He throws the ball well on the run, especially to his right.
Yeah, they don't do it very much, and that time it was not by design, but it worked well. They try Ricky Blake off the left side, and he gains only 1. Winnipeg running back Ricky Blake has hurt his right forearm. He comes out of the game. The Bombers 2nd down and 9 from the Edmonton 30-yard line. Salisbury, long count, drops back, fires, complete down to the 20-yard line. And that'll be a Winnipeg first down. Jeff Smith made the catch.
With Ricky Blake out, Matt Pierce, number 32, is in to take his place. Good protection up front. Salisbury has to have the confidence that his backs and offensive line will give him that time to throw the ball. Sure, hit me late and take me down, but if I can see the receiver and get it to him, that's what they want to do, obviously. So far, they've been able to execute that game plan as far as possession, but they haven't been able to get in the end zone.
From the 20, the pass to Ken Winey, and he can't hang on. Andre Francis hit Winey a split second after the ball got there, and that's what the Edmonton defensive backs do very well. And you really need concentration to catch the ball, and because you know you're going to get hit.
Well, you can't be thinking about getting hit. I mean, you just can't say, oh, geez, I'm going to get hit in the back as soon as I catch the ball. It's part of it. Catch the ball and then deal with it.
Second and 10 at the Eskimo 20 for the Blue Bombers. Murphy wide left, McCall to the right, Smith in motion right, Salisbury in the pocket. And the pass is batted down. Brett Williams got an arm up there to knock that away. Once again, the Bomber offense will leave the field in frustration after moving the football reasonably well between the 20s, as they say, and then being not able to put it in the end zone.
Well, they're halfway there as far as game plan. You put on what you put on the sheet of paper, what you want to be able to do, run the football, control the football as far as time and first downs, and obviously have success throwing it. And they've been able to control the time and throw it with some success. They're not getting in the end zone, and they're not having any success rushing it either.
Kennard from the 27-yard line, and he misses to the right. Kennard had kicked 44 and 46-yard field goals, but he misses from the 27. And so it's Edmonton 15 and Winnipeg 7 with 2:14 remaining in the first half. Not very often you're going to field goal the Eskimos to death. Although had Kennard made that, it would have been a 15-9 game, 6-point spread. In Ottawa, the Hamilton Tiger Cats have taken charge. They lead 32-15 in the fourth quarter. If they win, they'll be 10-6 and they'll clinch first place. Saskatchewan leading Calgary. They're now in the second quarter at Taylor Field in Regina. 10-0 Rough Riders. Rick Warman stays on at quarterback for the Eskimos and hands to Reggie Taylor, who has a gain of close to 9. Taylor, the leading rusher in the CFL, 1,259 yards starting today.
What a great acquisition. Everyone knows part of the BC Lion trade. You know, you try to defend the Eskimos. You figure, well, if we shut down Ham and shut down their passing game, well, you've got to shut down Reggie Taylor and Marshall and Johnstone. They just have a group of players that can hurt you all over the field. A classic example is when Craig Ellis was out, Marco Sinskar steps in and he catches a bunch of footballs, so makes it tough.
Second and a yard, Warman keeps and looks like he has the first down. When the Eskimos went into training camp, Neil, Joe Faragelli was very concerned about his offense. He wasn't sure who his wide receivers were going to be. Sandusky was gone, and Gizmo Williams, who played some wide receiver, was gone. They got Reggie Taylor in the trade, but they didn't really know what he would give them. And, of course, Craig Ellis comes on off Sandlot football.
Touch football to be
Yeah, sorry. And then Tracy Ham has the kind of year he's had. So a lot of positive things have happened on offense to kind of put the lid on this great Edmonton season, which isn't over by any stretch. Warman, and that pass is dropped by Tony Hunter.
The play before the last one where we saw Warman go on a quarterback sneak, that was their first down of the quarter. So their pace has slowed down somewhat on offense. And Tracy Ham has not only have his ankle taped, but now he's got the shoe on, plus the sock, and now he's dropping back a little bit. Next thing will be the shoulder pads and then the helmet.
Chances are that'll be bad news for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Eskimos, second and 10 at their 41. Warman with a fake, and he'll throw a screen pass to Reggie Taylor. There's a flag down as Warman was hit late. Taylor's into the Bomber 49-yard line, a gain of 15 yards. And they're calling roughing the passer on the Blue Bombers as well.
Great play and a great read by Rick Warman. Whether he recognized what was coming or not.
Major foul, roughing the passer, Winnipeg number 35, first down.
Either way, whether it was an audible or he called a screen or turned a pressure situation into a screen, good read. And here's the roughing right there.
Well, Jones, it looked like Neil made contact with his helmet against Warman's helmet, and that's what he would have been called for. The ball moved all the way to the Bombers' 35-yard line. Warman. And this time he doesn't get away from the rush. Michael Gray and Tyrone Jones make the stop. Warman will lose a yard. 1:16 left in the first half. Now for an update on the Calgary-Saskatchewan game, here's Nick Pastaya.
Well, Bob and Neil's an error-prone first quarter. 5 turnovers between the two teams. Calgary moved it down, couldn't convert the touchdown. Mark McLaughlin, 17-yard field goal. Saskatchewan 10, Calgary 3.
Thank you, Nick. Second down and 11. Warman looking down the corner, and Rod Hill has the best shot at the ball. Keith Wright, the intended receiver. So with 54 seconds left in the first half, Jerry Corrick will get his first chance to kick a field goal today. You look at Faragelli and the assistant coaches on the Eskimos, Neil, a team that has a 13-2 record, has a lot of new players. You have to think the coaching staff has done an awfully good job.
Well, an awful lot of credit doesn't go to coaching staffs in successful seasons, and you're right, it should. They mold the players, and it's their system they're running.
44-yard field goal try by Korek, and it hits the upright and goes off to the left. If it hits and goes through, it's good, but this one didn't go through. And Jerry Korek somewhat disconsolate over that turn of events.
Well, a little miff. Seemed like the wind held the ball up, and it could have pushed it just a little bit to the left, or to the kicker's left. Good follow through. I think made good contact. Les Brown was in close. Just a little bit premature on the call.
Well, it looked like it was there, I guess, but it was hooking to the left as kicks will do, and it hooked into the upright. Salisbury throws to Jeff Smith on first down out to the 35. 10-yard gain, 45 seconds left in the half, and it looks like the Bombers will try to get it in the scoring range rather than just run out the time.
The fellow who has the nickname Slinky, the way he goes down the field, everything in motion, the shoulder pads loose, he's bopping and weaving all over the place. Good possession receiver. He's played too. Last week he played very well, and so far this week.
Jeff Smith, they brought him back from the Ottawa practice roster after cutting him 5 or 6 weeks ago. Salisbury throws, and it's tipped and intercepted. Faby was the intended receiver. Andre Francis down the sideline to the Blue Bombers' 17-yard line. 26 seconds left in the first half. And that could be a real backbreaker for the Bombers.
Simple crossing pattern. The ball gets away from Salisbury. This one should have been completed. There goes your receiver right across your face, 73 Faby. He's there, very catchable. Johnny on the spot. The Eskimo secondary people around the football.
The receiver has to catch the ball in that situation, Neil, and the Bombers have had this happen to them often in this streak. They're just not making the plays. Let's see if the Eskimos can make a play here. Warman, great pressure, tried to get it away to Reggie Taylor, but was unable to.
Well, I'll tell you, Tyrone Jones is stirring a few things up. You watch, he'll come into your screen right there, just to the left. Randy Ambrosi, great job of coming out of his right guard spot and then picking Jones up on the run and keeping him out of Warman's face. And then a little bit of chatter ensued, and you know.
Rick Warman, 2nd and 10, the Eskimos from the Winnipeg 17-yard line. We have Rod Hill's vantage point for this play. Warman, as the Bombers come with pressure. And his pass is low, intended for Reggie Taylor down around the 10-yard line. Andre Francis with the interception that set up this series of Edmonton offensive plays, his 5th interception of the season.
Big Stephanie, Jalil, I continually.
I couldn't have said it better.
Well, we're glad he likes our telecast. Jerry Korek will try a 25-yard field goal. And makes no mistake. With 15 seconds left in the first half, it's now Edmonton 18 and Winnipeg 7. A significant defensive stand by the Bombers, though, I would think.
I think the Winnipeg defense has been playing well all game. They came up real tough, down by their goal line, a couple offside, silly mistakes. But they've been tough. And Rod Hill, who comes into this game with kind of a strange injury, not a pulled hamstring, but a bruised hamstring. He took a real good shot in the back. It was black and blue, very much discolored, and it's going to be just a little bit uncomfortable. Thus, they dress Ken Haley. He's the DI, and in case Hill can't go the full 60 minutes, Haley will come in at corner.
And if it wasn't for Hill's injured situation, Neil, they would have dressed Tim Jesse as their designated import. That was the plan all along. But with Hill's uncertain status, they felt they needed some insurance in their secondary.
And that's what they went in with last week. Jesse and Ricky Blake had some success running the football. And in hindsight, interesting, because Blake now has a sore arm, as Rod Hill heads for the clubhouse a few seconds early.
So the Bombers will just run out the time, and the first half is over with Edmonton enjoying an 11-point lead. We're at Winnipeg. Winnipeg Stadium, the Eskimos lead the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 18-7 at halftime. In Ottawa this afternoon, the Hamilton Tiger Cats overcame a 14-0 deficit and beat the Ottawa Rough Riders 32-22 to clinch first place in the East. Nick Bastaya, bring us up to date on the Calgary-Saskatchewan game.
I guess the story of that game right now is the fact that there's 8 turnovers being committed by both teams, and we're not even out of the first half yet. So no one's really sustained any offensive momentum right now.
All right, and the score is 10-4 Saskatchewan in the second quarter. Neil Lumsden, your thoughts on the first half of this game?
Well, I think what Winnipeg's going to have to do is they're going to have to sustain some things. They've got part of the game plan. We spoke about that. They've thrown the ball with some efficiency, but they're not putting the ball in the end zone. They're going to have to shut down and continue to shut down the offense of the Eskimos, but take it a bit further. They're going to have to be able to kick them if they get them down.
Marco Sinkar will kick it off to begin the second half. Blue Bombers down by 11. Sinkar has his kick fielded by Ken Winey at the 30-yard line. He's back to the 40 of the Blue Bombers and upended there. And that's where Sean Salisbury and the offense will take their first crack at it in the second half. Sean Salisbury and the Winnipeg offense 1st and 10 from their 40-yard line. Salisbury throws complete to Cochran, but stopped for a gain of only 1 yard.
Well, Winnipeg had some success early going out into that flat, but I think it's right, and Salisbury's got it right by wanting to come out and throw the ball. Cochran's had success. He's caught over 35 passes this year coming out of the backfield, not only the flat, but hitting upfield into the seams. And maybe if Edmonton continues to spread those linebackers out in their drops, those seams early, in other words, a hot pass might be effective.
Blue Bombers from their 40.5-yard line, almost 2nd and 10. Salisbury. And he has a man wide open on the sideline. That's Terry Cochran. All the way down to the Edmonton 36-yard line.
Just sitting alone on the sidelines. Terry Cochran holds on and waits till Salisbury gets an opportunity to get the ball to him. He doesn't look to him immediately. You see one back goes to the left, swinging. That tries to pull the linebacker up. It does that. Larry Ruck gets caught going for the ball. Instead of, he's underneath the play where he should be, but Cochran's position was good, and even better with Salisbury's throw.
Blue Bombers at the Eskimos 36, 1st and 10. Salisbury with pressure, but he gets the football away looking for James Murphy, and it's knocked away by Andre Francis. Good play by Salisbury to get the football away, and Francis equals that by breaking it up.
Well, you're right. It was a heck of a play. Salisbury wants to go in a drop formation, gets pushed out by Bass, and takes just one heck of a hit. And that's tough, going to your left, knowing you're going to be hit, and throwing the ball as deep as he did. Francis did not bite in that stop and go by Murphy. And again, the battle continues down the field with the cornerbacks and receivers.
And those Edmonton defensive backs are just all over you when you're out there running a pass pattern. 2nd and 10, Blue Bombers, Eskimo 36-yard line. Salisbury with time, throws, and it's incomplete. William McCall, the intended receiver. And it was a catchable football, but it wasn't caught.
Well, that's 2 situations now that come into my mind where the ball should have been caught. One turned into a turnover. The other could have been a first down if McCall had been able to squeeze that one. But once again, Winnipeg effectively moves the ball down to about, we could consider it scoring territory, and then stalls.
Kennard from the 43-yard line. Lots of distance, but is wide left. Caught in the end zone by Tony Hunter, who will concede the single point. And that'll make it 18-8 for the Eskimos. Just over 2 minutes into the third quarter. Nick Bastaya will now update us on Calgary, Saskatchewan.
Well, the miscues continue. Bob Stu Laird blocks a punt. Terry Baker punt. Junior Thurman recovers. Takes it 25 yards for a touchdown. Calgary 11, Saskatchewan 10.
Talk about plays that can change momentum. That one there in the Calgary-Saskatchewan game could do just that, as we see Tracy Ham return to quarterback the Eskimos.
Surprise, surprise, huh? I am.
Are you surprised?
Yes, I am.
Ham fumbles the snap from center. Ham went out in the first quarter with a twisted ankle late in the first quarter. We didn't think we'd see him back as he had ice on the ankle, but as the second quarter went along, he took the ice off, got the tape on, and he wants to play some more.
Miscue there. Both guards are pulling this. In this particular occasion, Ambrosie's pulling to the left. as was Verschuvel, but the ball didn't come out cleanly from the center. So Ham didn't get a chance to handle it properly.
This has to tell us, Neil, that it's only a very minor ankle sprain that the Eskimos feel comfortable with and putting Ham back in the game. Ham throws deep for Richards, and he makes the catch against Sampson. Ali catches him from behind at the Winnipeg 31-yard line, and Tracy Ham really got pounded as he threw that ball.
Well, a hit like this is even going to hurt your ankle if it isn't sore to begin with. Rolling out to the side, he sets, and just as he sets and gets rid of the ball, he is hammered by the backside. And what a great effort by Richards downfield, taking the ball away, which could have been an interception right here. Just yank it away. Now he's back upfield.
45-yard gain. Ham to Tom Richards, who closes in on the 1,000-yard mark in pass receiving. And Tracy Ham adds more to his numbers. Richards has never passed 1,000 yards in receiving in his career. Reggie Taylor carrying, and he's down to the Winnipeg 25-yard line for a gain of 6.
A little bit of a counter play. Going one side, then coming back the other, try to work the flow of the Bombers. Watch the motion. Williams steps down. Here comes Potier. Verschuvel, they pull out. Taylor, as he does, just knifes up in there, slashes and gets some yardage.
2nd and 4, Eskimos at the Winnipeg 25-yard line. And it's a draw to Taylor. No, it's not. Tracy Ham has the football, and he's down to the Winnipeg 15-yard line. Tracy Ham with a great fake to Reggie Taylor, and he picks up the Eskimo first down. What a difference he makes when he's in the game.
We might have two firsts here. This might be the first time that the defense of the Bombers have been pulled in on a play like that, and the second first might be Tracy Ham sliding.
He looked like he's able to move pretty good on that ankle that time, didn't he?
Well, he came out of there like a shot.
From the Winnipeg 15. Ham in the end zone, and it's no good. Intended for Craig Ellis. Ellis' first game back after missing 3, and he hasn't been very involved in the passing game of the Eskimos. Not today, but he has been this season. 65 catches for 1,045 yards and 8 touchdowns.
And that was up to before he got hurt, and as you said, he's missed 3 games. Tom Richards described the relationship between Ellis and Ham as something special. They're just on the same wavelength.
2nd and 10 from the Winnipeg 15. Ham throws, and it's no good. Intended for Keith Wright down at the 5-yard line. So the Eskimos once again use a big play to set them up in scoring territory. And they won't get it in the end zone, but Jerry Korich will come on to try a field goal.
Well, I have to believe that Joe Farraghelli wouldn't put Tracy Ham back in the football game unless he was absolutely sure, and I know this would have to come from the doctor, that he cannot do any further damage to that ankle, and that is just a slight sprain to begin with.
Warman will hold for Korich on a 22-yard field goal try, which is good, and which expands the Edmonton lead. A field goal by Jerry Korich puts Edmonton in front by 13. Marco Sinkar kicks off. And Ken Winey returns for the Blue Bombers, and he's down at the 39-yard line.
Hi, everybody in Windsor.
Jerry Korich, with that field goal, broke Dave Cutler's Eskimo record for points in a season, 195. So he's pretty happy about that. And we're happy to have former Blue Bomber Joe Poplawski with us in the broadcast booth. Joe, you are representing the Western Canada Summer Games, which will be held here next summer. You're the president of the games. How did you get involved in that?
A little bit of pressure from Mayor Norrie.
That'll do it.
It certainly will. Mayor Norrie and a couple of the councillors asked me if I'd be interested in getting involved in the games, and certainly I'm pleased that I did so. It's an exciting experience, and I think it's something that Winnipeg can really work towards.
Rick House was a teammate of yours, Joe, and he comes up with a big play for the Blue Bombers. James Murphy just broke your club record for receiving yards in a career. He did it last week. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I set a record, and a lot of that was due to playing with James Murphy, and he's a very talented receiver. I knew it was just a matter of time before Murph broke the record, and I'm sure he's going to break a few more before his career is all said and done.
Joe, when you see Rick House playing, and there's a number of players that are still on the field that you played with and against, sore back or not, do you wish you were still playing every once in a while?
Yeah, when the team starts going well, when they had that 4 or 5 game winning streak, I wish I was playing. But after this 4 or 5 game losing streak, you think, geez, it's kind of nice that I have retired.
Jeff Smith down to the Edmonton 23-yard line. Well, Joe, we wish you well with the Western Canada Summer Games. I know you're looking forward to a great 2 weeks here in Winnipeg next year.
July 6th, about 3,000 athletes will require 5,000 volunteers. You can see our little bit of a logo here. And before I go, gents, I have a sweatshirt for each and every one of you. Neil, the biceps in that one were let out a little bit for you. So
Thanks, Joe.
Well, I'll put mine on during the next break. Joe, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Joe Poplawski, former Blue Bomber great. As we watch the Blue Bombers try to do something great here this afternoon, which for them would be scoring a touchdown. They haven't done that yet. They're 2nd and 2 at the Edmonton 23. Cochran gets the ball on a totally fouled up running play that loses yards for the Blue Bombers. Well, they look at that one on the films and shake their collective heads, won't they?
Well, I'll tell you what, that reminded me of a play Ronnie Stewart ran in Ottawa. Watch this. Cochran's on the left of the screen, sort of like a counter. Fake up inside, pull your guard, and then try to get him to come along the line and kick up. But Edmonton gets such quick pressure upfield in the gaps, there is no lane. 2nd and 2, just run at it. Get after the hole, straight on.
Braswell cranked Rhoda Huskers and knocked him right back into Cochran, so the Bombers, once again, settling for a field goal try from the 36-yard line. And Kennard makes this one, so it's now 21-11 for the Eskimos. 7 minutes, 10 seconds left in the 3rd quarter at Winnipeg Stadium. Edmonton Eskimos 10 points ahead of Winnipeg. Eskimos with the ball at their 35 after Trevor Kennard's 3rd field goal of the game for Winnipeg. Here's Reggie Taylor, and Stan Mikowas tracks him down after a gain of 4 or 5.
Well, the gentleman in the middle there wearing the blue sweatsuit is Ken Lowe. Now, he used to be the athletic therapist for the Eskimos. Now he's the athletic therapist for the Edmonton Oilers, who will be just across the street in a few hours taking on the Winnipeg Jets. So if you you like to boo Edmonton and you're a Winnipeg fan of all sports, today's a great day for you.
Ken Lowe is the brother of Kevin Lowe of the Oilers, who'll be playing tonight. 2nd and 5. Tracy Ham has a receiver wide open. That's Blake Marshall, who's down the sideline. Finally collared by Les Brown, but he went out back further upfield, went out of bounds. But Marshall has had a good day today. He's caught a number of passes.
Oh, he's just working strictly to the flat. He starts out at the line of scrimmage where he can be when they sprint sometimes. He just goes straight in the flat. And if a linebacker doesn't run with him and the coverage rotates backwards to the slot and wide receiver, he's open and open quickly.
One of the talented Canadian running backs on the Eskimos. 39-yard gain that time. As Ham throws over the middle down to the 42 of Winnipeg. Craig Ellis comes up with the ball, and that's, I believe, his first catch of the game. That's Lee Saltz beside Sean Salisbury.
Gonna turn over 30.
Not saying much, you know what they're thinking. We've had our chances, but we've been denied. Reggie Taylor carries on 2nd and 3 and is stopped short of the first down. And close to 2 yards short. Quincy Williams in on the tackle. But the play was made by Stan Mikowas.
And a good play by Mikowas coming through as Taylor was just about to pop it back outside and try to become one-on-one with Quincy Williams. Mikowas is able to sort of just grab the ankle. Motion's going to go left. He's going to follow Marshall. Now watch him belly back to the right. See that hole there? If Mikowas doesn't come off his block, Taylor hits that seam.
Eskimos will go for it. 3rd down, about 1.5 yards from the Winnipeg 41. Marshall, and he has it easily down to the Bomber 36-yard line. Great work by the people up front to make the hole for Blake Marshall.
Well, you can start at center with Conop Bercheville at the guard, and of course Hector Potier, who's always there when you need him at left tackle. They come off hard, and they keep coming. They just don't hit and sustain and just make contact. You have to hit the man and then drive him. Give your back a seam.
From the Bomber 36, first and 10 Eskimos. Ham finally gets it away and completes it down at the Winnipeg 26-yard line. Tony Hunter made the catch against Les Brown.
Tony Hunter's contribution has been very special this year. They looked at him as a punt return specialist. He has shown that and kick return, but being able to go in and play that receiver spot when they've needed him and really become a starter. Good hands, nice soft hands, able to come back to the football and helps his quarterback out.
Had only caught 11 passes, Neil, coming into this game, but the Eskimos have not gone to their wide receivers as much this year as they have the inside people. Tracy Ham carrying on second and half a yard, and he gets the first down to the Winnipeg 25-yard line. 3.5 minutes left in the third quarter. The Eskimos with a 10-point lead and doing exactly what Joe Ferragelli wants right now, and that's holding the football.
And exactly what Mike Rowley wanted to do. Sean Salisbury control the football, back-to-back first downs, and then finish it off with not just a field goal, but a touchdown.
25 is Tom Richards moving around at the right slot for Edmonton. Ham looks into the end zone, and it's caught. But Tony Hunter, they say he has a touchdown. Tony Hunter against Les Brown. It looked very questionable that he had control of the ball in bounds, but that's what they rule.
Well, it was right down the sidelines of where the Eskimos bench is. Ham's is going to put it up and over, trying to get it over the outside shoulder. Has he got control of it? No, it's pretty close.
Sure. Very difficult call. That's one of those 50-50 calls. The official ruled that he did have the ball when he was still in bounds, and it's a touchdown for the Eskimos. And a convert by Jerry Korick will make it 28-11.
And give Hunter the credit to focus, and when the ball's tipped, get it and hold on to it.
Edmonton Eskimos have to punt. Third down and 10, the ball at their 31-yard line to begin the fourth quarter at Winnipeg Stadium. Jerry Korick, who has passed 200 points on the season today, lifts a high spiral. This is a beauty. Winey at the Winnipeg 30 runs into one of his own players trying to find some room. A flag comes down as Winey comes down at the Winnipeg 27-yard line. That's Paul Bennett, who had an outstanding CFL career. 4 of his years with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Defensive back, kick returner at the sidelines. Works for the radio station that does the play-by-play of the Blue Bomber games. And he also does some coaching. He does commentary from the sidelines, and he does some coaching in his spare time. And he led the Winnipeg Hawkeyes to a Prairie Junior Conference semifinal victory yesterday over the Okanagan Sun here at Winnipeg Stadium. And that leads us into the month of champions, November. The Armadale Cup on the 11th, the Vanier Cup on the 18th, the Grey Cup on the 26th. What are those, you ask? Well, we're about to tell you. The Canadian Junior Final, the CIAU, that's the Canadian College Final. And we all know what the one on the 26th is, the CFL Championship, the Grey Cup, and the last 2 of them will be played at the Sky Dome in Toronto. Ricky Blake carries on first down for Winnipeg. Neil, you've played in 2 of those games, haven't you?
Yes, with some success, too.
Yeah.
University of Ottawa in 1975.
I knew you'd bring that up. What did you win in 75 now with Ottawa? Canadian
College
champion.
Bowl.
Yeah. Good.
And then a few Grey Cups after that.
I heard about those Grey Cups.
You know, just as a side note, Rick House is, Paul Bennett has recruited some pretty good coaches. Bobby Thompson, Dan Huckluck, and Rick House also helps them out. So no wonder they win.
2nd and 8 Blue Bombers. I don't know what happened there at the beginning of the play, but at the end of it, you could clearly see that Sean Salisbury got flattened.
A strange play right from the beginning.
And no penalty flags.
Boy, he did take a shot, too. The ball snapped, but no one's moved. So between Scott Reddle and Salisbury, they seem to know the count. But the offensive line, or the balance of the offensive line, didn't.
Readily either snapped the ball early, which seems unlikely, or the other offensive lineman just blew it.
Well, it didn't seem like it caught Salisbury off guard, though.
Right.
And generally that does if the ball snapped earlier. Unfortunately, the Eskimos didn't see it the way the rest of the offensive line did.
Yeah, a look of resignation on Salisbury's face. Bob Cameron gets set to punt. 3rd down and 19. Blue Bombers, a big rush, and Cameron just got it away, and it's a good one. Tony Hunter all the way back to the Edmonton 53-yard line. Blue Bombers have him surrounded, and down he goes. "13 minutes left in the 4th quarter at Winnipeg Stadium. Bob Irving with Neil Lumsden. The Eskimos lead by 17, have the ball. Reggie Taylor carries and has many yards down to the Winnipeg 33-yard line. Biggest run of the day for Reggie Taylor.
Boy, all year long, the offensive line of the Eskimos have been able to pop seams, some bigger than others, obviously, but watch this. Just a delayed draw. He hits up in there, then he kicks it right back outside, gets in the area of the linebackers, and then he just uses that quickness and speed.
Reggie Taylor having a nice day. The Eskimos have really stopped the Bomber run. Tracy Ham gets away from blitzing Paul Randolph and throws, but it's no good. Intended for Tom Richards.
Boy, Randolph almost had almost made an outstanding play by coming through quickly, going over Taylor. Taylor getting enough of the block just to stop him enough, just enough. You don't have to get much of him right there. Making him leave his feet, allowing Crazy Ham to keep going.
Now we talked to Salisbury before the game and said, do the Eskimos have a weakness? And he said, not so as you'd notice. We haven't seen many today. 2nd and 10 for Ham. Tyrone Jones chasing, and Ham gets it away, looking in the end zone, and it's no good. Intended for Craig Ellis, but looked like Ham just threw that football away to prevent the loss. But again, he's moving very well on the ankle, and he twisted in the 1st quarter.
I was just going to say the same thing, the mobility.
Farragelli just took Ham out of the game, Neil. I'm sorry.
He relies so much on his quick feet. Right here, drop and roll. Tyrone Jones making motions and looks like almost trying to scare him out of throwing the ball.
Jerry Korick, who has broken Dave Cutler's team record for points in a season, adds a field goal to his strong day. He's over the 200-point mark and has a very good chance and will likely break Dave Ridgway's CFL single-season point scoring record of 215. Korick is now up to 203, and the Eskimo lead is 31-11.
What a great luxury to have a kicker that can both punt as well as Korick and do the place kicking. Allows you to put another Canadian on the roster, back up special teams, and I think it works out. And every week, Dwayne Mandrusiak, the equipment manager, and Jerry Korick sit down and design something. And as you can see, this is almost like an Eskimo man, like Pac-Man, swallowing up the big W, and those have been the victims at the bottom. And none of the victims are smiling.
No. Salisbury takes off in the face of good Edmonton rush and gains maybe 3 yards, but it wasn't the play he had in mind.
No, they're forcing him out, not letting him have a good look downfield. If there is someone who comes open, he won't see it. You know, Don Matthews' theory, and I'm sure it's the same for Don Southern, is we don't have to get sacks all the time. But if we can force them to either punt into a 3rd down situation or force them to throw the ball away, it works out to be the same type of thing. Ultimately, we want the ball back.
Matthews to the left of Joe Farragelli, watching his defense operate. Here they come. Salisbury puts it out long for Rick House, and he cannot make the catch with Don Wilson all over him. The Bombers can't believe there wasn't an interference call, and neither can Mike Riley. And frankly, neither can I.
Well, there's been some pretty good pushing and shoving and jostling, and you have to expect that. But I'd say on this situation, it was pretty darn close. They could have fired a flag out there quickly. I mean, you can only let so much get away.
3rd down and 8 for the Blue Bombers at their 37-yard line. Bob Cameron to punt. Eskimos headed for their 14th win in 16 starts. Cameron's going to pass. Wilson has them all wrapped up, and the pass goes incomplete. And so the Eskimos will take over on downs with 10:26 left in the fourth quarter. Rick Warman back in at quarterback for the Eskimos after their last offensive play. Joe Ferragelli said to Tracy Ham, "Come on out, let's get some ice on that ankle. You've done your job," and indeed he has. From the Winnipeg 37, Reggie Taylor on a delay. And is all the way to the Bomber 28-yard line, a gain of 9 yards.
Don Wilson, a valued member of the secondary, but also on punt return and other special teams. There he is at the bottom of the line of the screen. Normally he would be back out covering the one receiver. He did this earlier in the game, and they kicked the ball. This time he caught Cameron before he was able to throw the ball. Really, that punt formation is designed. If they leave a guy unblocked, we're going to throw him the ball right away.
Greg Battle was supposed to get a piece of Wilson on that so Matt Pierce could slip out and get into the flat for the pass, but the Bombers missed a block, and often when you miss one block, you have messed up the play. Well, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, with their win over Ottawa today, have clinched first place in the East. They'll host the Eastern Final against either Winnipeg or Toronto. And the Blue Bombers, it looks like, will drop to 7-9 and be tied with Toronto. The Argos have won the season series from Winnipeg. So the Argos are now in the driver's seat in terms of finishing second. They have to beat Hamilton in their last two games, or at least will play Hamilton in their last two. Winnipeg plays Ottawa twice. Second down and less than a yard, and Warman keeps the ball and has an Eskimo first down. 9:40 left, fourth quarter. Edmonton ahead by 20 points. And this is the 12th game in a row that the Eskimos have scored more than 30 points. That could be a CFL record. I don't know if they keep track of those sorts of things. I know they don't. They'd have to do a lot of research, but hard to imagine anybody's ever done that.
It doesn't surprise me, having watched them play all year, though.
First and 10 from the Bomber 26-yard line. Warman looks in the end zone. And it's caught by Wright, but they say he was out of bounds when he came down with possession of the ball. So it's an incomplete pass.
Again, right down the sideline, Joe Ferragelli, I'm sure as soon as that ball was thrown, stepped out to look right down the line. Sampson, the halfback, is playing a little bit in the middle. Then he moves on the ball once it's thrown. He got there a little late.
See, now he was forced out of bounds by the defender, in which case you're supposed to give him the 6. But there was a questionable one early. You get some and you don't get some. Eskimos are second and 10 from the Winnipeg 26-yard line. Warman's pass intended for Wright, and it's broken up by Darrell Sampson at the 13-yard line. Gary Durchik and Joe Ferragelli at the Eskimo bench.
Had a touchdown there. Took it away from him. Hey, Edmonton, hey, everybody in the city of Chandler, what's happening? In the field. He got bumped up.
Jerry Corrick will attempt a 34-yard field goal. Rick Warman to hold. 8.5 minutes left, fourth quarter. Bombers were offside as Corrick kicks, but they had stopped the play before it started. So his kick goes for naught. And Corrick will be 5 yards closer.
Offside, Winnipeg number 34.
When he tries again.
They'll move it up 5 yards. Another chip shot for Cork. Battle moving a little bit early down on the bottom side. Trying to get that jump to get in there and maybe get a piece of it. That's one player, excuse me, Bob, that will not give up as the game goes on when they're down.
No, but this is an extremely discouraged team, I would guess, Neil. They're headed for their 5th loss in a row. That's a long losing streak for a team that fancies itself as a pretty good club. Corrick with a 29-yard attempt, and he puts it through, and it's now 34-11 Eskimos, 8:03 left. With a Jerry Corrick punt at his own 45 back to the 48, and there is a flag down. We have 2 minutes, 48 seconds left in the game at Winnipeg Stadium. The Edmonton Eskimos lead the Blue Bombers 34-11.
No yards. Edmonton number 20. First down.
You know, listening to Stanley Blair and our little chat with him, and the one thing that sort of stood out when he said, when we're in coverage and I like to play tight and I like to be physical because I know we're going to get the pressure. Knowing that that pressure is going to come makes it easier for him to stay close because he knows it's not going to be long before the quarterback either has to throw the ball or the quarterback's going to go down. And that's the key to tight coverage. It all comes from up front.
Sean Salisbury will stay in at quarterback for the Blue Bombers. Drops back to pass. Throws, and it's no good. Intended for Ken Winey, but he can't hang on to it. You know, Neil, we can only imagine how frustrating this is for Salisbury. Who, you know, the Bombers were talking before the game, hey, the Eskimos are good, but there's some things we can do against them. And you go out there on the field, and very few of them work. And now you're going to lose your 5th game in a row. The guy must be going bananas.
Yeah, I think the thing he has to do is stay away from blaming it all on himself, because it's not his fault.
Ricky Blake, a little swing pass from Salisbury, and he picks up 12 yards down to the Edmonton 43-yard line. The greatest concern for Mike Riley right now would be his team's confidence level. When you've lost 5 in a row, you've been beaten at home by Hamilton and Toronto as they have been in this streak. Well, that doesn't do much for your state of mind.
Well, getting out of a slump is very difficult, and it doesn't happen just in parts of a game. It's something that has to be consistent, and ultimately ends up winning the game. And big plays do help get you out of that slump immediately, but you need some good fortune, and you have to continue to play hard, because it's not going to come if they don't continue to buckle it up and get out and get after it, and during practice in the week.
Nice diving catch by Jeff Smith for a gain of 8. 2nd and 2, Blue Bombers at the Edmonton 33. Jeff Smith has caught 6 for 61 yards today. Ricky Blake forced outside and then upended by Mark Mathis. As the Bombers continue to pursue that elusive touchdown. They haven't scored one today. 11 points, all in the kicking game. Salisbury on 3rd down in the pocket. Gets it away, but there's nobody close to pass. It's intercepted by Francis, and a flag comes down as Francis is upended by Jeff Smith. So the interception may be wiped out by pass interference.
I think that's exactly what it's going to be.
Eskimos have only given up 25 touchdowns this year. That's the lowest in the CFL.
Pass interference. Edmonton number 14. First down.
See, Francis again just playing aggressively. Jams the receiver when he takes Salisbury makes that pump fake. The receiver then, after that pump fake, wants to wheel around after getting him to step up and take the fake, and Francis just jammed him and wouldn't let him move.
Quincy Williams at the Bomber bench. Salisbury for Jeff Smith, and he drops the ball at the 5-yard line. Well, as you said earlier, Neil, when it goes bad, it sometimes goes way south. And that's in addition to the problem they're having with the Edmonton Eskimos, the Bombers are having some problems with themselves.
And of all people, Jeff Smith, who is known for his soft, secure hands, the ball Salisbury lays right out in front of him, right over the coverage. He couldn't have done any more, but that things just compound themselves. And you know, you'd rather have, if everyone's going to make a mistake, have them all make the mistake on the same play, so it just doesn't hurt you throughout the whole game.
2nd down from the 25. Salisbury with Brett Williams after him, gets the ball away for Faby. Complete at the 10-yard line. That'll be a Blue Bomber first down with 1:55 left. Don Wilson makes the tackle, and a very aggressive tackle at that. The Eskimos typify the team that plays 60 minutes of football.
Well, you've got to keep going after people. I said earlier that Winnipeg had to, when they got Edmonton in a situation where they could, for all intents and purposes, kick them when they've got them down and put the ball in the end zone, didn't do it. Well, the Eskimos aren't going to back off hitting you. I mean, everyone's still got a helmet and shoulder pads on. They're still going to pop you if they get a chance.
And that's one of the things that makes them so good. Salisbury dumps it off to Terry Cocker, and he's down to the 4-yard line. A gain of 8, close to 9. Well, Rod Hill said before the last Winnipeg game in Hamilton that the Bombers better win or they'd have major confidence problems, and they are about to go down to their second straight loss since he said that.
And Hill really acted as a cheerleader for the offense, trying to get them going, motivating them from the sidelines when they come out to the sidelines. You know, keep your chin up, don't let it go down, we'll get you the ball back. But that chatter only goes so far when you can't get it done.
Salisbury throwing for Murphy in the end zone, but he lost his balance, and it'll be 3rd and 2, Blue Bombers at the Edmonton 3.
I asked someone when I got to the stadium today, what do you think, or how do you describe the Bombers of this year, 1989? And they said, well, in a word or in a sentence, lack of consistency. And we've seen that again today. They look good, and then they don't look good.
Salisbury not looking good right now. He's sacked by Don Wilson back at the 18-yard line. And Salisbury possibly has never been so frustrated in his football life.
Well, I talked earlier about how Edmonton spreads around their sackers. Larry Ruck has come. He's got 6 sacks now. Coming into the game, Don Wilson had 4. This will be his 5th. Little play action to try to freeze some people. But right from the backside, the weak side of the field, Edmonton takes a chance, exposes themselves a little bit, knowing that if they get to the quarterback, he will not see the weakness that they've left open. And that's what happened.
So the Bombers lose the ball on downs. Well, here's our CFN playoff schedule. We'll have the East semifinal, the Western final, and then the 77th Grey Cup game at the Sky Dome in Toronto. Taylor hands off to Michael Soles. He'll try the right side and gain close to 5 yards. Getting around the corner, young Soles, a rookie who the Eskimos expect to develop into a very good player, 22 years old from McGill. Mike Riley thought his team made some progress in the game in Hamilton last week, even though they lost. He felt they did things better in many areas, but I don't know what he'd be thinking today. I think you take the opposition into account quite a bit when you assess this one. Steve Taylor throwing, and it's tipped away by Rod Hill. A minute 12 left in the game. 34-11. The Edmonton Eskimos about to tie the CFL record for victories in a season, 14, and that's shared by 6 teams. The Toronto team last year won 14. Saskatchewan won 14 in 1970. Winnipeg in 1960, and 3 Edmonton teams have won 14 games, the 55, 57, and 81 Eskimos. And all but the Toronto team last year did it in a 16-game season.
The Eskimos will have done it in 16
Yes.
games, though.
They'll have tied it, and they will, you would guess, break it.
Yeah, I think
Would that be a good bet?
whatever money you have in your pocket, I'd put on the table and bet it, and I'd match it, I think.
A minute 12 to go at Winnipeg Stadium, which is pretty much emptied. The fans rather disillusioned with their Blue Bombers, and 5 losses in a row will do that to you.
Well, you brought up a very good point a minute ago by saying that a team can look not very good, play poorly, but it's not always their fault. I mean, you know, obviously they do things wrong, they make mistakes. But you gotta give credit to the opposition. I mean, they play well, they make you make mistakes.
Oh, the Bombers just overmatched today, as has every team in the league been. Korek running around with his snap, and he gets a pretty good kick away, but the Bombers let bounce. Ken Haley tries to pick it up all the way back to the Winnipeg 44-yard line. Look at that. Korek had to run out, kick the ball on the run, and he still got it to the Bomber 44-yard line.
I guess that punt and that bounce and the trouble they had picking it up pretty much typifies the way the day's gone, wouldn't you say?
We say, that's right. We say people have left, but of course we're still here, and so is Nick Pastaya, who's been watching the Calgary-Saskatchewan game out of one eye and this one out of the other. It's now 22-10. The Stampeders in the 4th quarter in Regina. Salisbury stays on at quarterback and throws to William McCall, who makes the catch at the Edmonton 54-yard line. I thought, Neil, we might see Salts in these last 2 or 3 minutes, but I would imagine that Riley is thinking, this guy, we have to try and build his confidence, so let's let him complete some passes and
maybe get a touchdown.
Yeah. That's the only rationale I can come up with for leaving him in.
I think if they were going to make a move, it might have been when we saw Salts warming up at the sidelines, earlier in the third quarter. Because he looked pretty, I mean, it just wasn't a casual tossing the ball around. He looked like he was warming up.
The thing you have to understand about this Winnipeg team is they do not have a backup quarterback that they feel confident at all in going to, unlike other teams in the league. Salisbury is their guy, and he runs out of bounds on this play at the Edmonton 48-yard line for no gain. It'll be 3rd and 5 Bombers.
Having just come from Toronto and see the Argos play fairly well the other night against BC, now I'm wondering if Bob Obilovich feels a little bit better about his quarterback situation. Rick Johnson stepped in, did a pretty good job. Still has to get a little bit more comfortable, I'm sure. Get back in the playing for him. John Conjemi, he's done well when he's had the opportunity.
Well, Joe Ferragelli, sorry, Neil, basking in another win, and we saw Mike Riley, who actually said something to the officials, and that is really a sign of how deep the frustration runs with the Blue Bombers, because regardless of how the calls go, Riley seldom, ever says a negative word about the officials.
Yeah, he tries to keep things in perspective and just, you know, not blame it on anybody but himself. But I think of all people that we've watched over the years as a coach, and we spent a lot of time with Mike Riley, as Sean Salisbury has a problem getting off, that this last few weeks have been very tough on him. You can see it in his face. He looks a lot more tired than he used to be. And, I mean, he's a competitor. Just because he doesn't rant and rave doesn't mean he doesn't want to win more, as much or more than anybody else.
Like all head coaches, he's dying a little bit more today. Johnstone carries on first down, 28 seconds left. Now, the Blue Bombers play their last 2 games of the season, Neil, against the Ottawa Rough Riders. And, of course, the situation they'll be in there is they'll be expected to win those 2 games. And should they fall short in either one of those, the feelings of the fans around here are going to worsen, if that's possible.
Without question. And you hate to assume you're going to beat anybody.
That's what Riley said when we talked about that. He said, I hate that situation. 5 seconds left now. The Edmonton Eskimos putting the finishing touches on a 34-11 win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Their 5th win in a row. The Bombers' 5th loss in a row.